When you create a component, you give a name to its selector metadata property. In this case, it's my-app. And then you include your HTML markup in the template property. To include this component in a HTML file, in this case it's index.html, we just include the my-app, which is the name of the selector, as the element here. If we switch over to our browser and look at the runtime results by inspecting the DOM, we can see that the element named my-app has the markup from the metadata inserted inside of it. So this welcome to Angular 2 is actually coming from our component here. Now let's try to change the markup in the template metadata and add some more new content to it. I'm going to add a p tag and provide some description to our app. So I'm going to say, this is my first Angular 2 app. And when I hit save, you can see that the new content is there. Okay, so it looks good so far, but I don't really want to write all of my markup in a single line. What I want to do is to break my markup into multiple lines so it gives me better readability. So let's try to put our markup into multiple lines. But it doesn't seem to allow us to do that, and it throws an error. So how do we achieve writing our markup into multiple lines? Since we are writing our code using TypeScript, we can leverage future forward syntax like the backtick to surround strings. ES 2015 has support for backticks, which allow multi-line string definitions in JavaScript. So we can use backticks around the template value and start moving things to multiple lines for better readability. So let's add some backticks here. And when we save this file, the content is rendered without any problem. So using the template metadata property is an easy way to compose our Angular components. We can write our markup in line and in multiple lines. But this may not be an ideal situation when you're developing a complex application. You may want to have your markup in a separate file, like in a separate HTML file. So in order to do that, we have another property on the add component decorator, and it's called the templateUrl property. So let's see how to work with the templateUrl property. Angular CLI has already created an HTML file for our component. It's the app.component.html file. So let's open the file and delete its content. Now let's go back to our component file and make use of the templateUrl property. And before we do that, let's take the content of our template property here and then paste it inside our component HTML file and save it. Now let's go back to our component file and make this a templateUrl property. It takes in a string and we need to provide the path to the HTML template. So it's going to be /app.component.html, and we are going to save this. Back in the browser, we see that the same content is being displayed, but this time the HTML or the markup is actually coming from your component.html file. So let's again play around a little bit with this and then change this to application to see whether the content is coming from our HTML file. And we are going to save this. And yes, the content is coming from our HTML file.